Welcome to Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation possible. You will get to hear from CSIA system integrators and industry partners to get a better understanding of how they help their clients solve process challenges and how they've earned success in their careers. Along the way, we will touch on system integration best practices, technology, trends, and challenges. Whether you are a manufacturer, end user, supplier, or system integrator, you will enjoy the insights these industry professionals bring to this podcast. Let's get started. In today's episode, we're talking industrial automation with Matt Wise, who is the CEO at eTech Group, which received one of 3 2025 System Integrator of the Year awards from Control Engineering and Plant Engineering WTWH Media. Matt leads eTech Group's 600-plus employees in 25 locations throughout North America. His industry experience spans industrial automation, advanced manufacturing, software, digital marketing, and advertising. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here, Lisa.
For starters, let's hear your elevator pitch. How would you describe to lay people what it is that you do?
Well, it's interesting. For lay people, I go with a very simple concept. I talk about how we are the brains of the factory. What we actually do is control all the machines in the facility. Because sometimes people hear, oh, you're in automation. You must make robots. You must make conveyors. I'm like, nope, none of that. But we're the people who tell those machines what to do. Sometimes I draw the analogy, we're kind of like the conductor in an orchestra. We're making sure all the pieces work together to make music.
Love that. So I'm super interested in your diverse background. It's just not that often that I get to talk to marketing folks who have made their way into the C-suite, much less into the top spot, particularly in this industry, which has been kind of slow to embrace marketing. And I say that with love. Tell me how you got here with that diverse background.
Yeah, it's a fun story. I was lucky early in my career and got to rise up in the internet through sales and marketing. Ran a couple of software firms, and then about a decade ago, I moved over to the industrial segment, which is great. We did 3D printing and design software. And now I came over about 4 years ago to the eTech Group. And it's always interesting running a company of engineers when you're not an engineer. So I have to make sure I'm on my toes, make sure I have to Google all those acronyms. But the key is I leave the engineering to the engineers, and my job is to help coordinate the business and drive us forward. So they're looking for me for business strategy, not necessarily engineering chops. Thank goodness.
Yeah, I totally get you on that. You have to adjust your message too, right? Because I'm sweeping generalizations, of course, but they like things very direct, not a lot of nuance. They want it very direct. So
Black and white, they do.
Yeah, black and white,
Yes.
exactly. Which in a lot of times I find kind of a relief. Like you don't have to dance around it. You just tell them, and they're like, "Okay, just tell me."
It's very true.
Speaking of that, or kind of along those lines, do you find that some of those marketing and sales skills help you in your current job? I mean, how do those skills translate into what you do now?
They do, especially as we talk about where this industry is going, figuring out what's really the pain point for our clients, and not so much, this is a good black and white example, not so much what the problem is on the factory floor, but what the business driver is to that problem, and can we provide a solution to that? So that provides one element of differentiation from your traditional engineering approach. But the second also is how we view our services to our client and how broadly we can view that. And I'll chat more about that hopefully later in our discussion. But it's interesting how people historically viewed system integrators and how we're now going to market. And I think a lot of that is because of a different sales and marketing approach.
Talk to me a little bit about eTech Group and how it sort of began and evolved, a little bit of the origin story there.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because it's multiple origin stories. So the original namesake is from a system integrator in Ohio that originated with 2 gentlemen that came out of a Procter & Gamble relationship and worked on CPG, food and bev. Then about 5 years ago, a private equity firm, after 20 years in business, purchased them with an investment thesis that system integrator business at a small, sub 100-person team was a challenging business. But if you could scale it up, there'd be really interesting opportunities both for the company and for the clients with a larger business. So with that in mind, we went out and bought Glenmont Global, which was an amalgamation of 3 other system integrators. We brought Superior Controls. We bought Banks Integration. So that was 6 different companies brought together over a 4-year span. And then most recently, we acquired Evolve Group and Automation Group. So now I've got 7 different companies bringing all their different know-how together to now be a some 600-person firm, one of the largest in North America. So it's been a great ride so far.
Some of the challenges that your customers are facing right now as you talk to them?
Complexity has got to be the number one. As we look at automation rolling forward, it's always been a complicated technological solution. And that's where most system integrators came to play. They were experts in their field of whether it be a software. But now the problem is there's a proliferation of different technologies out there. And your average owner or plant manager looks across and says, how do I make a choice from all of these technologies and all of this hardware? And how do I make sure it works seamlessly? That's where we come in as that partner who can give them advice on how to map through automation.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that, about what makes you unique about, eTech Group, about approaching a project.
Yeah. So one of the things we look at is if you consider how system integrators in the past worked, it was a client came and said, I have a problem. I'm making a detergent. I bought a new mixer. I need this integrated into my line. So you'd have a problem, you come up with an engineering solution, and you put that in place. What we're trying to do is work our way earlier in the decision-making cycle and say, A, let's talk about what you need in your line. Is it really a mixer, or is it an end-of-line packaging, or is it a tweak to your HMIs and your SCADA to improve the efficiency of what you have today? So that's the first part. And then the second part, which is, I won't say unique, but a differentiator for the eTech Group is, can you do this across multiple facilities? Because what we found was our clients who had multiple locations had no leverage with their system integrators. They were using 2 or 3 system integrators at each location. They had 15 locations. So you're talking about 45 different companies. And they weren't getting any gain of knowledge from one facility to another. That's what we're trying to bring. We've actually coined the term a main automation partner. What we mean by that is a partner that you can sit down with, not just to solve an individual problem, but to guide you through how do you do automation over the next couple of years? How do you prioritize that? How do you bring best practices through all of your different facilities? And a challenge for most system integrators is their region. So they have a difficulty serving all the plants, and or they have only one discipline of knowledge. They don't have all the platforms. They don't have cyber. They don't have business intelligence to create that entire loop. So you need to be really large, both geographically as well as in depth of services to solve that piece of the equation. That's what we've been investing in.
Give me some examples of some super challenging projects maybe that you've come in and been able to solve those problems for your customers.
Yeah, I'll highlight one, which is a multi-site client that had some 40 facilities across the country. Talking about a lot of system integrators, 2 or 3 system integrators per facility. And so they took a deep breath and said, what we are trying to do is create a connected shop floor where we can take all of the information from all the different facilities and bring them back to the C-suite. So in order to do that, one, you've got to audit all those facilities. Then you've got to come back and remediate those facilities, connect all those facilities so that the information can actually flow up. So they went out and they brought us in, which was difficult because they had never done this before. We had never done something on this scale before. I mean, it took us a full year just to audit the facilities. And now we're in a multi-year effort to help them connect all those different devices across all of those different facilities. There are no more than 3 or 4 system integrators who could have even bid on such a project. And that was a challenging one because we're all crossing new land about how do you service something this wide. Now, I think we're 4 years in. The relationship is great. We are now their trusted partner to managing that, but it was no easy task to get there.
While the solutions to every challenge facing your business are not always clear, one thing is certain. To be successful, you must be continuously elevating your game. And there is no better way to do that than by digging into real-world issues in real life with the real experts, your peers. That's why I'm so excited to be able to invite you to attend the 2025 CSIA Conference, June 2nd through June 6th, where hundreds of system integrators will get together in San Diego to learn and grow. I've been working with associations for my whole career, and I can honestly say I have never experienced a group of business professionals so willing to share, collaborate, and support one another. Look, this isn't about boosting attendance. It's about making sure CSIA members can fully experience the most valuable benefit the association has to offer, the CSIA Conference. Ready to learn more? Visit www.controlsys.org/2025 conference. See you in June on the West Coast. Tell me a little bit more about eTech Group and how it's changed in the past year and what you expect for the next year or two.
Yeah, so the last year actually was an exciting year because we recapitalized, meaning we got new investors that brought a lot of capital or cash to us to be able to deploy in the next couple of years. So just from a scaling perspective, we probably added a little over 100 people last year. And as we look forward, we're continuing to look at that 100 to 200 new team members a year just through organic growth. And then now that we've got new investors, we're also looking at more acquisitions. One of the things we find is there is a limit to how fast we can onboard quality people. It's just a burden to training them, bringing them all on the same platform. But when we buy companies, we can accelerate that process, both our entry into clients, but also bringing the team members on board. So that's going to be a big initiative over the next 2 years. Hopefully, we'll announce another acquisition in the next couple of months, actually. So it's exciting news.
What kinds of trends and challenges are you seeing in the industry right now, and what makes you optimistic about it?
Yeah, so there are a couple of mega trends out there, which I think we all know about: the shortage of labor, the push towards outsourcing. All of those are drivers of our business. And if you look, especially in North America and the United States in particular, there's a shortage of labor. So if we are going to hit the growth targets that everybody wants, unless we find a lot more workers, it's got to be done through automation. So that's a great opportunity for us. I think it's also a challenge for those folks who are in the manufacturing industry of how do I balance that investment in automation with people? How do I do right by the people that I have today? But how do I also scale faster than I can hire? And I think that then swings back to what we talked about earlier was the complexity. So you get someone who runs a facility and some people think, oh, you're going to automate it. Like automating it is actually a term. There are thousands of different parts in a facility that can be automated, and they can be automated in lots of different ways. So I think that's the challenge that most of our clients face is, okay, I know where I want to be. I want to be able to scale faster. I want to be able to work more operationally efficient. But how do I get there? What's the roadmap? And I know I can't do it all at once. A facility, especially a brownfield facility, takes years and years to go from one end to the other. Sometimes we talk about it kind of like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. The old saying is you start at one end, and by the time you're at the other end, you got to start back where you began. Same thing with automation. When we look at a facility, we look at piece after piece that we're going to automate, knowing that when we're at the end of the line, we'll have to circle back to the front of the line again with the next generation of tools that are there. And that's just when we're thinking about traditional automation. As AI and machine learning has gotten better and better, there are more applications for that. So now not only firms have to think about, do I put something in automated or manual, but they have to think about how does that stitch into the rest of the fabric of my network? And can I apply AI and machine learning to that? These are heady and challenging problems for clients.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that, everything's changing day to day, but with the tariffs coming in and the uncertainty with the supply chains, how are you preparing your team for that?
Yeah, so the last couple of months have probably been some of the most challenging as we look forward since the beginning of COVID. Uncertainty is never good for business, and we have a tremendous amount of uncertainty right now. I think we can all universally agree as a whole, tariffs are bad. There may be isolated points. For instance, we do a fair amount in steel manufacturing where there may be a pickup in steel manufacturing from tariffs. But as we look at that translate through the rest of the economy and the rest of our clients, it's definitely an overall negative. So now we have to consider not only do I have a downdraft that's going to be caused by the tariffs on the overall scale, but I also have just uncertainty where some clients are saying, I'm not sure if this is going to hurt me. I better not invest right now.
Mhm.
So we are hoping that we're going to see more stability. We're talking to our politicians and our political representatives to say, hey, bring us some assurances so that we can do business planning. And in the meantime, we're coaching the team to be nimble. Look for projects that either have a short-term turnaround or are supported by the current administration's goals so that we can ride those through while the rest of the economy tries to figure out the best path forward.
Yeah, I'm trying to buy a car right now. I just have that one little purchase I need to worry about. I can't even imagine all the other stuff do you even sleep at night or you
Yeah,
yeah,
automotive manufacturing is a perfect example. The cost of,
yeah.
tariffs go up on steel. It's good for the steel companies, but now the cost of metal goes up. If you're going to import parts from Canada, who's a great trading partner, and Mexico for the automotive industry, those all got more expensive. So that makes them hesitant, makes you as a consumer hesitant. If the prices are going to be so high, is this really a good time to buy? So again, hopefully we can all hope for a little consistency going forward.
getting back to CSIA or talking a little bit about CSIA, eTech Group is a CSIA certified member. If somebody asks you, why should I choose a CSIA certified company to work with, what would you tell them?
It's interesting because there are lots of certifications in different industries. Everyone's got their own. And I find the CSIA certification for system integrators is a really compelling value proposition. It's a well thought through document that really articulates how to run a business. And so when we speak to clients, the value proposition to a client to work with a CSIA certified partner is, they've got their stuff buttoned up. Why is that important to an industry client? Because they're relying on these system integrators to help their facilities function. So they want to make sure that the thought process to how was the estimate created, how is the project being run, is there good feedback? All these basics of business have been instilled and audited when you go through a CSIA audit. And the last thing you want when you are running a facility that can cost you hundreds of millions of dollars, it can cost you millions of dollars for downtime, is to work with someone who doesn't have a really polished process. Because if they make a mistake, sure, it's on them and they might get fired, but you run the facility. And now your facility is down because you picked the wrong player. So we strongly encourage our clients to look at people who are CSI certified over not.
Yeah, well, I mean, in general, again, sweeping generalizations, engineers are very risk averse, and that certification is one way to mitigate risk in
Very true.
that area. Again, switching topics a little bit, but sticking with the CSA world, I understand that you're going to be a speaker at our upcoming CSA conference in San Diego in June. Tell me a little bit about your session and what attendees can expect to learn.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. You were talking about my background. One of the things that I bring is having scaled businesses in lots of different industries. I'm going to share some of those best practices because there are a lot of system integrators who are doing wonderful work and growing their companies. And what I have learned over the years is as companies grow, they reach inflection points. When you reach 30 people, 50 people, 100 people, 500 people, your challenges you have as a leader in running the business change. The systems that you need change. And we find in the industry, a lot of companies get stuck at one of these barriers. They get stuck at 50, they get stuck at 70. And it's because they didn't know what processes they had to change. And what they were doing before didn't work for their next step up. So as opposed to having to learn it the hard way, I'm going to share a number of those lessons for the team to hopefully make it easier for them to scale their businesses.
Yeah, and the title of the session is How to Successfully Scale Your Business Past 50, Past 100, and Past 500 Employees. And that'll be on Thursday, June 5th at 4:30. Oh, you got the end of the day slot. Good for you.
I'll make it entertaining for everyone who shows up.
Tell me a little bit about why you're so generous with your time and your knowledge, and attend and present at industry events.
Yeah, it's twofold. One, I think the primary reason is there's just good karma that's out there about doing well for each other. I believe that there's lots of business, so it doesn't have to be this, we're all competitors sitting in the room. It can be a session where, and this whole event is around sharing information to make our businesses better and stronger. And the second part is we are a mission-driven company. We're talking about how do you disrupt the way we do industry today in manufacturing, and that has a benefit to all of society. So every time I pass a piece of advice on to another person in the automation industry that propels their business forward, that means they've done something good for their client. When they do something good for their client, it literally helps the entire US economy and all the people that participate in it. So if I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to do something, that seems like a worthy thing to do.
Yeah. I always admired Bill Gates for, he's so wealthy, and he just decided one day, you know what? I'm going to cure that polio, or was it malaria? I don't know. He took one of
Malaria,
those
yes.
diseases. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna give that a shot. I mean, you got to like him or hate him. That's a pretty impressive goal in his retirement, right?
He has taken on the Gates Foundation has taken on some fantastic causes, and they have made a real difference. So it does show that you put your mind to something and you have a lot of money, you can make a difference in the world.
I'm personally super grateful for this approach to industry events because one of your stars, Jen Palumbo, your VP of marketing, she's going to be presenting at our marketing workshop, which is a pre-conference workshop happening at the conference. And sometimes when I approach people about joining CSA or participating on some of the events, I'll get this comment, why should I tell my competitors my secrets? Or, why should I share the secret sauce with, doesn't even have to be that saucy, but share my best practices with people who might be competitors. And what would you say to that?
I'd say that's the same reason I'm speaking is the reason Jen's speaking. We are We believe in this mission that if we can make everybody better in the automation industry, we're going to help forward the mission of our company. That said, we also get benefit out of this. I'll be speaking on how to scale your business, but while I'm there, I'm sure I'll run into other leaders who provide me with some insights on how to grow my business. So I think we're all helping each other out, and I'm super proud of Jen doing that on the marketing side.
I'm super grateful because she's really saved my bacon, and I know she's going to do amazing. Last question. What 3 podcasts or books would you recommend to the audience?
Well, so I happen to be listening to Diary of a CEO right now, which is a podcast, which is extremely entertaining. So I would recommend that one. Just started listening to that one. Current book I'm reading right now is Strength to Strength. I'm only a little ways into it, but so far it's very interesting. For those of you out there listening who might be leaders of a system integrator or a CEO, it's all about how you progress your career. You don't have to be a CEO, but it's a fascinating concept. And the last is a book that I'm not reading right now, but I've read a number of times that guides me through business. And that's a book called Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Highly recommend that one if you want to ground yourself in what it means to run a business.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Talking Industrial Automation. If you are interested in learning more about Matt and eTech Group, you can find them on the CSIA Industrial Automation Exchange at www.csiaexchange.com. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Matt, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, Lisa. It was enjoyable.
If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also really help the show by leaving a review and sharing with colleagues. We're all just slaves to the algorithm now, so I gotta ask. Thanks for listening to the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. Thanks also to bensound.com and Wistia for the music bumpers. Until next time.